Right. How's it going?
It is going well. How are you today?
I am maintaining, I'm hanging in there, avoiding the struggle because the struggle is always real.
Struggle is real.
Like official accountability here, back with another interview. Um, so, won't you start by, kind of giving some insight on what brought you like overseas and stuff like that? Or, well, actually, let me back up and let me just ask you, where are you currently residing, if I may ask?
All right. I am currently in one of the little island Asian countries, a little bit off of the coast of China. And what brought me here was, well, the registry. But before I start, I would like to say one little thing, if it's okay. I'd like to put a little plug in, and I think this might help you out. I noticed the last time there was a small issue. People wonder if we're here legally, why do we bother to try to make ourselves a little less identifiable? And I'd like to clear just a little bit of that up, if it's okay.
Absolutely.
Maybe this will help those listening. As you're going to understand as we go into this interview a little bit further, my family has been under extreme harassment. The idea that the registry is not punitive is a lie. It's an extreme lie. Anyone that has, if it was not a lie, the politicians wouldn't mind their names being on the registry. But you notice how quickly their names got taken off of the politicians registry that was started back in, I think 1994, because they know it's punitive. My family has been beat, they've been harassed, they've lost jobs, they've lost employment. My youngest daughter was sexually accosted by a boy in school because the school broadcast the fact that I was on the registry. And so he decided that because I was on the registry, she was an easy target. When we took it to the state police, and this is actually something that has been reported in the news, so some people may know about this already. It's been a few years, but yeah, it was international, national news for some time. The state police went to the extreme level of telling my daughter, well, it's your dad's fault. If he wasn't on the registry, this would not have happened to you. That was his excuse. Rape is acceptable to people, to the children or family members of people on the registry, but it's not punitive. So that is why we bother to try to wear masks and things like that, to protect not ourselves, our life is over, but to protect the family members and those that we love to the best of our ability, in spite of the fact the government has placed a target on our family and loved ones. Have I summed that up pretty good?
Yes, absolutely. And that brought pretty good clarification because I do get emails from individuals asking, hey, why are you wearing a mask 3 o'clock in the morning in a basement? Or, I'm saying, here and there, here and there. I'm like, dude, focus on the information we're putting out in these videos. Stop worrying about what we're wearing. It's ridiculous.
Well, hopefully that will help them to focus on the information now that they know the whole purpose is we want to protect our friends and loved ones, not just here, but also in America. They have been subject to a lot of abuse. Many of them have been targeted. I know a very dear friend of mine, his daughter committed suicide because of the flack and the abuse that she took because her father was on the registry. And so, they have to understand that we're not doing this for ourselves. We're doing this for, to prevent victims. We're preventing the government from creating more victims.
Absolutely.
Now, to move forward a little bit, the international travel under IMLA. Now, I've been really big in the forefront of a lot of that battle. You don't know me too well, but you might know me a little bit better in a minute if you've been paying attention to any of the news, especially starting back in about 1994, 95-ish, and maybe a little bit before that, the early 90s. My wife is a high-profile employee of another government, a high-profile government employee. We won't discuss the position she holds. You know that, but I don't think that's something everyone needs to know.
Absolutely.
Just leave it to say she's worked very hard. She holds multiple master's degrees, has speaks 5 languages, has never had a criminal record, has never done anything wrong, and understands the law much better than most. So the idea that she is a naive person would be out the window very quickly, as you know.
Right.
She has traveled back and forth to the United States many times. Originally, she held a citizenship of the country she's in, obviously, and she held a passport and a visa for the United States. When returning to the United States for a visit, because of her occupation, she never wanted to stay in the United States. She didn't want to lose her career where she lives. She just wanted to visit in the United States. That way she could see our family members and that here. We both have family here. We flew into Detroit International Airport, at which point in time we were accosted. Now, I'm used to this. I'm sure you're used to this. Detroit has actually always been in the news as being one of the worst, most corrupt airports in the United States. Well, it's one of the most corrupt cities. What do you expect?
Right.
But we flew in there, and as always, I got accosted simply because I'm on the registry. Now, the problem is she flew in there with me at the same time. If we would have taken different flights, there probably would have been no issue.
Mm-hmm.
We took the same flight. And because of that, something in them little small hamster wheels that they call brains registered that we might be together. They pulled her aside. They accosted her. They've stolen all of her luggage, all of her materials, all her possessions, most of which have never been returned. They took all of her money, never got it returned. We were in battles with Senator Hoekstra helping us. Mr. Levin was helping us. 2 of the other senator and congressmen, both Democrats and Republicans. This was both sides of the aisle working with us, trying to return these things. All of the video surveillance of what they did mysteriously could not be turned over because of matters of national security. So even the congressmen, yes, even the congressmen and senators could not get the security cameras for the airport to show what they did to my wife. Okay, because it's national security. Of course, I'm not sure exactly how that rates, but yes, they took all this stuff. They destroyed all her documentation. They deported her out of the country, doing a perp walk like a freaking common criminal. We're talking about a high-profile representative, a professional government representative of another country, deeply steeped in the legal and justice systems of both countries, who has given many legal speeches and broadcasts in America. Okay, so we're not talking about someone who's unknown, but simply because she was with me, this is the abuse that she went through. We spent many years fighting this. Matter of fact, she was pregnant with my first kid at the time, who, when she returned, the stress and the trauma and probably the being tossed on the floor multiple times caused a miscarriage, at which point our child died. The United States is guilty of murder. The United States Detroit Airport and every employee therein is guilty of murder, as far as I'm concerned. And I think that that's not an overstatement.
Wow.
Yes. Now, all of our court battles regarding that matter, we ended up getting pushed through because we were told that it could not go into the courts. We tried to get it into the Supreme Courts and everywhere else. I spent probably easily $100,000, liquidated every account that I had in battles. We finally got it back from just under the Supreme Court saying, well, this has to go through USICS because the government has set up all the branches for people on the registry to go through there. You're no longer allowed to seek legal representation through the courts. So we did, and we went all the way to the very top. I've actually got this. I wish I'd have brought it in with me because, just to like show it, because nobody in their right mind would look at that and say that makes any sense, especially when we talk about number 2, which is what my charges were. Okay. But first they said, A, they were correct in murdering my child. They were correct in abusing my wife. They were correct in stealing all of her possessions because I'm on the registry. and because she is an innocent person who may not be aware of what she is dealing with. It's kind of hard to believe considering she hears murder cases, government corruption cases, drug cases, and everything else on a daily basis, right? I mean, come on now, really? This is your innocent person who's not aware? So it's okay to murder my child for that reason. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And two, we're going to go down to number 2, and you can look this up. It is still the law of the land, and this is what really set the wheels in motion. It is an unreviewable decision. We have a branch of government. UCIS is a branch of government that when it comes to you and I, have unreviewable discretion. The court has absolutely zero authority. As a matter of fact, they sent a nasty letter, and Senator Levin and Congressman Hoekstra, they both sent me copies of what they received, telling them they have no authority to act. Our congressmen, our federal congressmen and senators have no authority to act against UCIS. Our duly elected representatives, the people that we elect to rule our country, this branch of government, unelected branch of government, has more authority than our elected, highest elected branches of government to act against us at their discretion. And it is undiscretionary. Okay. I've got all the evidence of that. I got that from the congressman, from the senator. They flat out had the nerve to just flat out tell them, you guys need to butt out. You have no authority here. We have all the authority. Our decisions, our actions are unreviewable. End of story. Now, because of that, obviously I was left in a situation where, what could we do? I'm not going to leave my wife. I mean, she's a train wreck at this point in time. I mean, hey, she just lost her child. That was her first child. She's got medical conditions that make it very difficult for her to even have the possibility of having a child. So this was like a miracle child in the first place. At that point in time, and now during this was about a 2-year battle. Okay. This was about a 2-year battle that we were fighting with the courts, trying to get it to where, she could have her things returned, to where we could get some closure, to where she could return. I mean, because she's never done anything wrong. Why is she treated this way? Why is she being abused? She's not a wanton criminal. She's never been a criminal. Matter of fact, she's exactly the opposite of any form of criminal on earth.
Yeah.
And so during that 2 years, I've also got children here. I raised them. I'm such a threat. I raised them as a single parent. Okay. I've got 2 daughters I raised all the way to adulthood as a single parent. Yes, I must be a terrible threat, right? The courts gave me custody of both of my children. Okay. Both of my daughters. The courts gave me the custody against the mother. Of course, I had to still pay her child support that, wasn't for the child because, I was raising them, but, I mean, hey, whatever. That just goes to show you that obviously the government knew that I was no threat and has known the entire time. Otherwise, why would they give me the sole custody of 2 minor daughters, right?
Right.
And especially when it did go to a court. It was a court battle for that too. So that tells a lot there. That was why, after my daughters both got old enough that, they both turned 18, during that 2-year battle, they both turned over 18. One of them got married. The other one got engaged. And I sat down, I had to talk with them. I was like, my current wife, this is a problem. You know what I've been fighting. You know what I've been going with. I'll tell you what, she can't come here. I'm going to go there. I'm going to sell everything I have, and I'm going to begin a life with her. I've promised that I would stay here for you as long as you needed me. And they both agreed, Dad, we don't need you anymore. We're on our own. We're grown adults. We love you. We'll stay in touch, yada, yada. Please give us our inheritance now so we can use that for our families. And so I did. I sold every single thing I had. I gave them, I split it in half between them. And then I basically came to the Asian country, absolutely deadpan broke. Now that got a little bit worse when it happened. We'll get into that in a minute, because now I will step over first to number 2, which is, what was this charge that made me such a monster in the first place? Okay, by the way, I'm just a little bit shy of 50 years old. All right. Mm-hmm. There's a reason for that. No, I did not commit. My case says 50 years old. I was at a 21st birthday party in a bar, a card at the door bar. And, well, I met a young lady, didn't know her name, didn't know anything about her, but it's a card at the door bar. I did what young men do, right? We all went back, we partied, we had intercourse. Now, at some point in time, I guess she got pregnant. One of my friends of a friend, somehow, I'm not sure how it all works, they knew friends of hers. So eventually it got figured out who I was. Okay. But she got pregnant. She told mom and dad she was pregnant. Mom and dad said, hey, somebody's going to be responsible for this. Oh, this gets really funny. You're going to love this in a minute. It gets, and so they went to the police and said, we need to know who had sex with my daughter. We need to blah, blah, blah. And she's a minor. She's underage. So they come knocking on my door. And I don't anymore. I know better now. But I used to believe, I was raised to believe that if you're honest, that honesty is the best policy and things will, especially when you're dealing with like the legal system and that, if you're honest, they're going to be honest with you. That's not true. We all know that. I've really learned that. So, the police came to the door and they said, hey, what happened here? And I was visiting. I wasn't even from the area, so I didn't know anybody. And they went to my hotel room and said, hey, what happened? And I told them, I was like, hey, we're at 21st birthday party. I was visiting my friends. It's people I haven't seen in forever. I'm not from here. And so, they said, do you see this picture right here? Well, first they asked me, do you know, and they gave me her name. And I'm like, no, I don't. They're like, do you recognize this picture? I'm like, yeah, I do. That was one of the girls that was at the bar, was all part of it. Yeah, did you have anything to do with her? I was like, yeah. So what all did you do? And so I told them, and they got really, and yes, I know, you don't have to tell me. I didn't then. I was young. Little red flags should have went up and told me, shut your mouth. It didn't. I was completely honest. I didn't know what was going on, but I was under the impression that if you're honest, it'll work itself out. And so I told him, I said, well, we kissed, we necked, she wanted to go, and, we had sex. Matter of fact, there was like a bunch of her friends, a bunch of my friends. We all did the same thing. We played little games, we played card games, we played spin the bottle games, the things that young adults do. And they asked me, I said, well, are you aware that she was a minor? I was like, no, how could I be? We were in the bar. Did you card her? I'm like, no, why should I have to? We're in the bar. Duh, right? I mean, duh. But you didn't. No. Yeah. I made two fatal mistakes. One is the more they got me to explain in detail, the more I explained in detail. I didn't realize sometimes you should shut your mouth. At all times you shouldn't talk at all. So in the end, I was charged with 2 accounts of CSC 3rd degree with a minor under the age of 17, above the age of 14, consensual sex with a minor, no coercion or anything else involved, and 1 account of attempted CSC 3rd degree because I told them we kissed first. So every single thing that I said we did, they gave me a charge for.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Now I still was not very astute. I was bad. I was scared. I was very scared. I mean, I'm a young adult. I don't know what's going on. I grew up in foster homes. I grew up in orphanages. I didn't really have a family to speak of. So I had no one in my court. I had no one to defend me. I had no one to speak up for me. I'm in a completely different, small little hillbilly American town in the middle of nowhere. And I'm going to say this, please, everyone, don't take this wrong. I know that you won't because you're going to get where I'm coming from. As a Black man in America, if you go into one of them, country towns like that, you know that perhaps you may face a little different reaction than a local would. It's the same if I go to like inner city Detroit. I'm going to face a different reaction than somebody that lives in that town is going to face.
Absolutely.
Well, and that's what happened to me there. As a matter of fact, the judge at sentencing even said, what we need to do here is, yes, there was 10 boys involved and probably 12 girls involved. It doesn't matter. You were actually the youngest of everyone involved. It was the boy. That still doesn't matter. What matters is you're not from this town, and we can't have that kind of behavior in this town. We need to set an example. Oh boy. Do I need to tell you who the example was?
You don't have to.
Well, it shouldn't be hard. I was the example. Now, going through the whole process, I was complete. I had a public pretender. I didn't have an attorney. I had a public pretender who spent more time drunk than he did anything else. I couldn't afford anything else. I mean, hey, like I said, I was basically a homeless young man working in a foundry for a living at the time. That there wasn't a lot to work with, and I didn't think I was really going to need much. I knew that something bad was going on, but I didn't think it was that bad. I mean, the whole time, they were very, very nice. Don't trust nice people. Don't trust nice people, especially not if they're prosecutors and cops and detectives. The whole time they were so nice to me. They were always coming over. They were visiting. I had one cop even come over and bring some beer and talk to me. I'm serious. They came over, they brought beer, and they drank beer with me and talked to me.
Wow.
I should have known something was wrong. Now, the prosecuting attorney told me at that point in time, they said, hey, listen, crime, in all reality, we've looked at your past. You should have been a wanton criminal for a long time, considering the life you've had and where you came from. But you don't have any past. So what we want to do is we want to help you. We want to, you got to have a punishment. You do realize you did something wrong. And to this day, I'll take credit for it. Yes, I realize I did something wrong. If I would have been paying attention, if I would have been astute, if I would have been thinking with my head, there are men say otherwise. They didn't. I was young. I was impulsive. Probably no different than thousands of other young men. When she started whispering in my ear, when she started kissing on me, my brain went, and it was gone. I did something wrong. Okay, are you with me again? It says we lost and we came back. Are you here?
Yeah, I am. Not really sure exactly what that was about. Probably connection issues. We are in different countries.
Oh, could be. So are you going to be able to splice that okay, or?
Yeah, I hope so. We'll find out in the end.
All right. If you need to do it again, let me know. And who knows, maybe I may even be better because now you'll have an idea. You can kind of coach through what you want and what you don't want. But
I do want to say real quick to those who are watching that we are not at all glorifying rape. We're not at all saying that rape should be okay or any form of assault or abuse. We're not saying any of that should be okay by any means. All right. We understand that there's a punishment and that there's a process for that punishment. We are only saying that the punishment after the fact is unacceptable. All right. The registry, the laws that they create after the fact is unacceptable. That's all we're saying. I'm reading a lot of the comments, and a lot of the people are saying, well, why are you defending pedophilia? Why are you defending rape? Nobody is defending rape at all. All right. So I just want to make that loud and clear to those who are watching. We are not defending rape, sexual assault, pedophilia, or none of that in any kind of way. All right. On this channel, if I read comments like that, they get removed and you do get blocked. I just want to throw that out there before we go any further. And I'm not talking to you, fella. I'm just talking to those who don't.
Oh, I fully agree with you. I fully agree with you.
Absolutely. All right. So my apologies for intervening. I just needed to. I probably should have.
No, that's a very important plug. No, I fully agree with you. And what he just said, that also stands for me as a father of two daughters who raised them from ground up by myself. I don't support that behavior either. End of story. And none of this has to do with supporting anything. As a matter of fact, even though my case didn't really fall into that area, it still fell into a case of misbehavior. I accept that. And at no point in time will I say otherwise. I accepted the fact that there should be a punishment, there should be a correction. And I still do.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying I was innocent. I am not saying that at all. I'm taking full accountability for my behavior. I fully well know that even though she lied about her age, even though we were in a bar that carded at the door, who, interestingly enough, the bar did not get held accountable because they saw her fake ID. But that, and it doesn't matter because there's a difference between, I don't know if you knew this, I'll just kind of page this in real quick. In Michigan law, there's a difference between a crime involving anything else and a sex crime, okay, as far as IDs. Now, and this is how the bar got away with it. Because she lied about her age to the bar, it is an acceptable defense that they were lied to, okay? Now, if you are, and anyone from Michigan knows this very well, if you're on the registry, probably many people have experienced it. If you are on the registry if you are in a sex offense form of crime, because they're considered a minor, they are not responsible for their actions and their actions are defended. Therefore, that is not an acceptable defense for you. It's an acceptable defense for a bar, but not for you. It's an acceptable defense for a drunk driver, but not for you. It's an acceptable defense for murder or for anything else, but it is not for you. They can lie all they want to you. And you're expected to hold the higher ground and to know that they are lying. Okay. But that is the only case with anything related to a sex crime. Anyone who does not believe this or wants to challenge this, feel free to look it up. I can give you the case law on the matter. I know it very well. But now we'll get back to what I was trying to say. I just wanted to add that in there so everybody has a clear idea. Back to where we were at with the prosecutor, they told me, said, hey, you didn't really do anything serious. We have to give you some kind of punishment. So this is what we're thinking. If you turn around and go in front of the judge is very strict. Just tell him that we don't have an agreement. We don't have a deal. We don't have a plea of any kind, because he's going to ask you. And when he asks you, if anyone in this courtroom has give you a reason to do something other than what he tells you, that the case will get thrown out and that we will not move forward. So you can't do that. You have to tell him, no, no, no. And I know a lot of people have fallen under that same trap. You probably did as well. It's a very typical trap. Now, the thing is, it is a trap because obviously it's a lie. They're forcing you to tell a lie because they have offered you a deal. They have offered you. You're only doing it because they've offered you an agreement. But once you make the mistake of telling the lie that they tell you to tell, you no longer have the protection of the fact that they lied to you. So they told me 90 days, no registry, because it was just kind of getting started. It was 1995, 1996 when this happened. Okay, the end of 1995, beginning of 1996, as I started to get into the court area. And so I said, no, don't worry about the registries and that. That's not going to happen. You will get a couple years of probation. That's it. So I was supposed to get 90 days and 2 years probation. Are you still with me?
I am. You're frozen though, but I can still hear you clearly.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Okay, great. Yeah, you're frozen on this end too. I can hear you clearly. Yes.
All right.
So I went in front of the judge and I did what they told me. And when it came to the whole spiel, did anyone coerce your comments? Did anyone coerce your statements? Blah, blah, blah. Even though everything I said was scripted, I said everything that they told me to say because I like I said, they'd been nice to me the whole time. I really thought they were my friends. I didn't know better. I was young. So everything I said was scripted. I pretty much told every lie they told me to tell. And the judge afterwards said, well, as I said, the whole spiel, we got to set an example. You're not from this town. And because you're not from this town, we can't have people thinking that other people outside of this town can come into our town and get away with this. We're sentencing you to 5 to 20 years in prison.
Oh my God.
And 2 years parole and registry.
Wow.
And they ended up carrying me because I stood up at that point. I was like, wait a minute, what? That's a lie. They told me. It's like, no, you just said that nobody told you. You're lying now. That was in. So that, yes.
My God.
I did it. And I did it. I did 5. Well, it was 4.5 to 20, and I ended up doing 5 because one thing about the Michigan courts is if you have any type of sex crime and you go in front of the parole board, you are going to minimum always get at least 1 flop. Always. That is just across the board. Now, the fact that I was a member of the committees and that, and I was doing all kinds of work, to help other. I went through all of their programs and all their tests and all their studies and all their classes and everything else. And I was working with other inmates, working in literacy programs. I was working with the Wardens Forum. I was on the Wardens Forum board. I was one of the members. I was a model inmate. I was doing everything possible to improve the lives of those around me, and to educate myself, to improve myself. In spite of that, I got 1 flop, which gave me the guaranteed a little bit over 5 years. I did about 5.5 years. Because sex crimes, you don't get good time anyway. Good time's automatically stripped out in Michigan. So you get no good time plus at least 1 flop. That's what I did. I got out. I did my 2 years on parole, started my registry. At the time, I think it was a 5-year max registry. And then a couple years after that, they upgraded it to a 10-year registry. A couple years after that, they upgraded it to a 15-year registry. Then they upgraded it to a 25-year registry. Then a few years after that, they upgraded it to a lifetime registry. And at the time, it was a private registry. It was only the police had it. It was 5 years, only the police had it. And if somebody wanted to see it, they actually had to pay a fee at the police department to be able to browse it, and they had to come up with a legitimate excuse for why they needed to see it. Other than that, the only other people, if you had a victim, the victim could see it for free. But other than that, anyone else that wanted to see it had to pay a little fee, and they had to show that they really had a legitimate cause of concern. They had to believe that you were a legitimate threat, or that there was a legitimate threat in their neighborhood. And I'll be honest with you, when the registry was like that, I still believed, that, hey, if that's part of what you sentenced me to, okay, that's acceptable. It's not a threat to my family. It's not a threat. Okay, it's only for as long, pretty much, as I'm on probation, a little bit longer than that, but not much longer. And it's only a police thing. So it's only if I do something bad. It's not a harassment. It's not a matter of targeting my family. So that's okay. But then, like I said, as it moved on, a couple years later, it went to 10 years, and it went to 10 years. So then they started adding all your monikers, all your emails, all your text messages, all your phone numbers, all your vehicle numbers, all your vehicle pictures, all your addresses, where you work. And I was in the middle of trying to get a higher education. Like I said, I grew up in orphanages and foster homes. I grew up homeless. I didn't have much of a life. I was legally dead by the time I was 12, at least 4 times. I had a pretty rough life. It was not, it was not your model, peachy life. So I was really determined and working hard to try to improve my life and the life of those around me. I'd learned my lesson. I'd stopped drinking. I cleaned up my act. And then they passed it to where you could no longer go to college without being harassed. So I ended up with a huge college debt and wasn't allowed to finish. That, of course, they expect me to still pay, but they're not going to allow me to finish it, so I'm not allowed to reap the rewards of it. Not that it would matter, because then they started calling your employment and telling the employment, hey, do you know you have a registered sex offender working for you? To have state police actually coming down to the place of your employment. Yeah, we just want to check if that, registered sex offender is working here. And shortly after, they always say, well, that's not the reason that we let you go. But, well, after they do that, of course, within about 3 days later, you're always let go. Sure, it's not the reason. What other reason did you have? You had no other reason? Well, then that was the reason, wasn't it?
Yeah.
All those things piling up really, really carried a lot of weight, a lot of those things. And I think I pretty much went over number 3 as well. As far as what my sentence was, the year I went in, 1997 is when I finally went into prison. 96 is when they finished the court sentencing. 96 I went to prison.
All right, we kind of got disconnected. You know, these sessions, unless I'm an upgraded member to Zoom, I can only do like so long at a time. So my apologies for that disconnection.
All right, back to where we were at. Like I said, roughly, I got out. I roughly got out in 2001, just before 9/11. I remember that very clearly because the very first job that I got was working for a logging company, going out in the trees in the middle of nowhere and cutting down big trees and doing heavy, dangerous manual labor. That was the only place that would hire me. And I was out in the middle of one of those places when the owner came over and hair on fire. Have you ever seen the towers? You won't see them now. And what are you talking about? And that's when he said, the Twin Towers were just hit. So yeah, I basically got out just maybe a month or two before 9/11. And I think I've pretty much covered, maybe a little splotchy here and there because we've had some internet issues and some breakages, but I've pretty much covered, correct me if I'm wrong, my formal charges, when I was sentenced, what I was sentenced for, how the sentencing went, and when I got out.
Right.
How long have I been out of the United States? This time I've been out of the United States since 2005, so 7 years.
Oh, goodness.
Yes.
Since wait, you
Now,
said you've been out of the United States since 2005?
2015.
2015.
15.
Oh, all right.
Yes, yes. Yeah,
All
2005. The math wouldn't work out very well, would it?
right. All right. No, that's good stuff. Good
Uh,
stuff.
2015. And matter of fact, my second son with my current wife, was born shortly after I got here, and that is what cemented my decision that I was going to stay here and not go anywhere, to obviously be a good father and care for my son.
Mm-hmm.
Especially after what happened to the first child. We were very blessed in the fact that this child was born very healthy with no issues. Fantastic, wonderful.
I do want to say, for what it's worth, my condolences to your loss of your first child.
Thank you, thank you. It's been many years, but that's one of those things I don't think, and anyone who's experienced it understands. I don't think you ever completely heal, but under the circumstances, it makes it even worse.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was due to criminal negligence of an entity that will never, ever, ever be held accountable for what they've done. I mean, I don't care who you are. I would imagine you should have a little bit of empathy and understanding for that. If not, there's more wrong with you than there is with me. Not you, but whoever doesn't understand it. And there's a whole bunch that I've neglected because I know this has been kind of long, but I've actually been trying to make it shorter than a lot of my problem is the fact that after I realized how horrible and how much they lied to me, I have worked very hard and tirelessly with like Miriam Ackerman and some of the people with some of the big legal firms in the United States. You may know of her. With the ACLU, she's one of the head attorneys. And I've worked with many, Becky and a few others from different groups, trying to correct it, trying not, as you said, not to justify what has been done by anyone, but to prevent future crimes by anyone.
Right.
And really, that should be everybody's concern. It shouldn't be what happened in the past. It should be how do we prevent it from happening again? Two, how do we not become worse than the people we're putting on the registry, which is where the United States is at right now. They are the government, and many people, I'm sorry, folks, you're going to get very upset with me for telling you the truth. People don't like the truth, but I'm going to be honest with you. I'm obvious answers. I'm going to give you some truth that you're not going to like. And that truth is, if you're complicit with the registry, if you're complicit with harassing people on the registry, if you're complicit with harassing their families and their loved ones, here's a surprise. Even though the government has endorsed your behavior, they've accepted your behavior, and they've even condoned and helped you with it, you're a criminal. If you don't believe me, I want you to turn the table around and think what would happen if somebody on the registry did the exact same thing to you and your family. They would be in prison for the rest of their life, wouldn't they? The only reason it's acceptable for you to behave the way that you do is because the government says this is a special group of people. It's acceptable to target and malign their families. If it wasn't for that, if it was any other group, it would be illegal. And you know that, and I know that. That's just, sorry, folks. Now, back to the thing. Do I have any interest in going back to the United States? I would love to. I would love to. I have 2 daughters in the United States. I have 3 grandchildren in the United States. I would love to be part of their lives. Right now, I can't. And that's going to get into 9, which was challenges in the IMLA that could be causing grief, hassle, havoc, and problems. Oh, I have huge ones. For one, I'm in a unique position, and I'm going to call the United States government out. And if anyone doubts me, I have all the paperwork and evidence and proof of this. So go ahead and challenge me. My wife, as I said, is a very high-ranking official of certain areas. So because of that, I have, well, privy to a little bit of things that not everyone gets privy to. And the United States spends tons and tons and tons of money in political bribery of other countries. They call it USAID and they call it many other things, but it's political bribery, convincing governments that if they do what the United States says, the United States will reward them. If they don't, then the United States will punish them for not doing what it says. Why is that important? Well, right now, I came to this country perfectly legally. I've been raising my son perfectly legally. I'm almost 50 years old. My crime is almost 30 years ago. I repeat, my crime is almost 30 years ago. I have not had so much as a speeding ticket. Not even a traffic ticket, folks. Not a jaywalking ticket, not a speeding ticket, nothing in 30 years. Now, how many of you can say that? No traffic tickets, no crime, nothing at all in 30 years. Well, come on, folks, that's not so bad, I don't think.
That's impressive, actually.
And of course, being married to a person in the occupation I'm married to, it's probably a requirement, right? But that's beside
absolutely,
the
point. Yeah.
Okay, but the United States has deemed. Remember, guys, in part 1, we talked about what my crime was, and we gave you all the documentation and evidence behind it. Now, they've deemed that I'm a national security threat. Actually, anyone on the registry is a international security threat. And they've told this country, even though this country gave me all legal authorization to live here and all the paperwork to live here, I've never gave them a reason to do otherwise, that I'm a threat. You know, the United States hates me there so bad that they want to force me to return. And they've blacklisted every single person in this country and forced them to have their paperwork rescinded, force them to have their passports all confiscated, and place them in a situation where, folks, remember, this is a third world country. Third world countries are where people go bang, 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 bang all day long for no reason at all. Third world countries are where you see all of the violent crimes that the rest of you yahoos see only on TV and you don't know is real. They're real. We see them every day. I'm sure you've probably seen some of your own. Now, because of my wife's occupation, I see a lot more than everyone else, and I see a lot of very gruesome things.
Mm-hmm.
The country I'm currently in currently has one of the largest government-endorsed death tolls of any of the countries in this area. That may indicate what country it is very, very quickly for anyone who's up on the news. And it's nothing for them to plant evidence, to fabricate evidence. It's one of the countries of the highest bribery and corruption scandals, other than the United States, known. And a lot of people in the same situation I'm in who have family who can't return, they can't stay now, are also caught in the middle the same way as I am. We've had all our paperwork confiscated. We can't leave if we wanted to, but we're also blacklisted where we can't stay.
What?
Exactly. That's the United States government. They did that to us. We're blacklisted. We can't stay. The United States government has blacklisted us to where we can't stay. At the same time, this country has has taken our passports and all of our identification. We can't leave.
So I'm confused. You don't have a passport, or how's that work?
They took it.
Oh my goodness.
Now I'm answering some of the questions you were wanting to know earlier, aren't I?
Absolutely.
So now you see where some of my issues reside. And that's the same for anyone here. As soon as, and many of them don't even know it. I have one friend, and I really feel bad for this man. I'm going to be very careful what I say because I don't want to make his life more difficult. I don't know where he's at. Nobody knows where he's at this point in time. I've done everything I can to reach out with his family and to try to identify him. Fortunately, he does have family, and they are actively seeking him. He did not. I tried to issue warnings here to anyone I knew that was on the registry here to let them know: be careful. Do not go to the immigration. Do not go there. If anything, go to the embassy, the United States Embassy. Throw yourself there and call your family first, and have your family call as well, because the U.S. Embassy is in league with them. If you look up the report by Sigmund, the last BI representative, he was the commissioner, the head guy in charge of the BI. He outright admitted, okay, this is public record. You see it, it's been on the news. He admitted, hey, all the crimes we've committed against American citizens, like the United States Embassy helped us do it. Their attaches are in league with us. So don't blame us for being corrupt. They're the ones that help us do it. That was his exact statements, okay? Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice, right? And that gives you kind of an idea of what's going on. And then, like I said, add that to what my wife has been able to show, and it paints a beautiful picture, right? But now back to my friend. I told him, I warned him, and I warned him, and I warned him, and he didn't believe me, because he had a one of his Visa cards that was needing to be renewed, and I told him, I said, brother, be careful. Hire an attorney, have your attorney go down, have your attorney represent you first. Do not go without representation. Do not go without your family knowing you're going. Do not go alone. We don't know where he's at. We haven't seen him, and nobody's seen him since then. That was a year and a half ago. His family in the States haven't seen him. They've been hounding all the officials and everybody that they possibly could. I've done what I can here. My wife has even used her channels to try doing what she can. The thing is, the Bureau of Immigration has their own prisons, their own detention systems, and their own, they're basically a government unto themselves. Mm-hmm. There is no oversight and no authority over time. Kind of like the USICS in the United States. You know, they are unelected. They have absolutely no. Actually, this guy is appointed by the president, the head guy of this one, but still, it doesn't matter. Once they get that position, there is no authority over them. They do whatever they want. Mm-hmm. We don't know. So for anyone listening who happens to be in the area, fair warning.
So it's because he goes into immigration to renew his visa. He has a passport.
And he's on blacklist.
Right.
Oh, it is, yes.
A valid U.S. passport at the time. Mm-hmm. He goes in to renew his visa. They confiscate his passport, obviously, and
yep.
We can't.
The only reason I knew is I walked in. They confiscated everything I owned. They prepared to run me to one of their black op detention centers. The only thing that protected me at all is, for one, I did have legal representation, and, well, you know who my wife is, and she was with me at the moment. So they were a little more cautious about what they could do. They kept everything that I owned, but then they kicked me out and told me, when we see you again, and we will see you again, XXX.
Wow. But you're still able to walk into the U.S. Embassy and obtain a passport.
Not so easily. We don't have our U.S. Embassy after it got reported. You know, they say that it's not related. Okay. Yeah, you put the dots together. After the last commissioner, I can't remember his entire name. I can find it really quick. Got canned by the next president that came in. Is when Duterte came in. The other Sigmund, whatever his name is, got canned, and he went under investigation as soon as he got canned. And he said, "Hey, wait a minute! The United States Embassy told me to do everything I've done. I've been lying, cheating, stealing, and detaining American citizens with no reason. I've been operating all these bullet scams. That's another big scam they got is they go into the airports and they take bullets and they drop them in people's luggages.
Mm-hmm.
And then they arrest them saying that they're trying to smuggle contraband weapons. Of course, they weren't. They don't even know, most of them don't know anything about it, one end of a gun or another. They're American tourists. And then they hold them in their facilities until one of their family members can arrange for the financial gratuity required to have them released. That's another one of the very popular scams here. So that gives you an idea of where I'm at, the culture, the corruption involved. And so when he, came out and he said, "You're not going to arrest me. If you try to arrest me, I'm going to take down the American embassy with me because they're the ones telling us to do all this stuff." And of course, he instantly it all disappeared for him. You know what I mean? I wonder why.
So I'm curious, if that's true, like how would they know who to do that to?
When you go in there, the Angel Watch, okay, what they do is anyone on the registry, and they do it in every country you go to, they send emails. Okay, the Angel Watch, and right now, if you look, they just got a huge new windfall of like billions of dollars, maybe $1 trillion cash in that last little thing that Biden did. Mm-hmm. To upgrade that. They're constantly improving. They're constantly making it worse. Back when I first got here, like I said, it's been quite a few years now, about 7 years. As long as only the first country you went in got the message. Okay. Mm-hmm. So if let's say you went to Japan would get the message, but then you would go to the Philippines, as long as it's a separate plane ticket. It has to be a separate plane ticket. It has to be your end destination country. They would only be able to report your end destination of the first country, not the second country. Okay, that's the way it was. They're improving on that now, to where now they're actively working to monitor and track you everywhere and anywhere you go. And so that's what they do. They don't report. They don't tell you. They do not tell you. You don't know. Okay, that's what happened to him. He did not know. He never got a message. He was never told anything. He was never given a reason to believe. He had never done anything wrong. He's just a father with a wife trying to raise his child to the best of his ability. He's done nothing wrong since he's been here. He's been here longer than I have. He was here for like 12, 13 years, long time. He's like me, he gave away everything he had. If he went back to the United States, he would be homeless. He'd be penniless. At least he's got family. I don't even have that. I would lose every single thing I had, and I would be in the streets. I would be homeless. But not that it matters. We don't know where he's at now. He's gone. I don't know. Nobody knows. His family don't know. His family's worried. They're panicky. They're trying to find him. And his case was a little bit different than mine, but not much. His only difference was he picked up a girl that was underage. He was like in his between 21 and 24 somewhere, if I remember everything he told me right. And the difference was his was in Florida. He met her in a Florida bar, and they went across the border. I'm not sure if it was Georgia or Alabama, because they were like right on the border. You know what I mean? Because they're border states. So they met here, and he went there. They had sex there. Then she went back. He got caught, and so they got him with a internet or with a national trafficking, sex trafficking charges or something like that. Tried to make it look like he was like a sex trafficker when really all he did is he took his girlfriend to a hotel. It just happened to be across the street, which just happened to be across the border. so that was really the only difference in his case, I think. But now his child is living in a third world country with nothing. His wife no longer has any support. She was not like my wife. She wasn't working, so she has no support. They don't know where he is. His family in the States don't know where he is. I don't know where he is. We don't know if we ever will find him.
It's unfortunate. That is very unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate because it happens very often here for many reasons, but definitely now that the United States has placed a huge target on people on the registry here, the United States is targeting its own citizens for abuse internationally. It's especially dangerous for anyone on the registry. So anyone here, be careful. Your family is under even a more serious threat than you realized.
Jesus, okay.
And that's why I was telling you, do not do not plan this as a vacation destination for that fact, or even a living destination, because, well, it is very highly unsafe. And it's a flip of the quarter. Sometimes you may, I've heard, some people somehow manage, I don't know how they do it, to get lucky. Maybe they go on a boat and they go through one of the southern island ports and come up, or however they do it. But personally, I would not suggest risking it, because if you don't get lucky, you're playing for keeps.
Yeah, I've heard a few individuals, that I've spoken with about this, and they've actually said that they've flown in and flown back out, no issues. So that might be that luck that you were referring to. But in
It
your
could be.
case, you said you go in and you get everything confiscated, including your passport. So would you say?
Well, when I got here, I was okay the first time, but I got here before everything happened. It was when I went to renew my visa that happened, that I had everything shot down and confiscated. And there's a lot more that happened after a lot of the court battles and stuff like that. It would take so long to get into that. But if you ever want to know, I could show you that later on and give it to you. We're still trying to fight court battles now, that are pretty much a joke, because, well, the United States has their fingers involved in everything. And just like the whole, your wife is an innocent, naive person who doesn't know who she married. She's only, XXX. They're using the same baloney here. I don't know.
Man, that's unfortunate. So would you say that your time there where you currently are is better than your time in the U.S. regarding the complications that you're saying that is going on currently with you over there?
Let me put it this way. If it was not for the United States government deciding that they want to continue their abuse abroad, I would love it here. I would love it here. The people are great. I have no problems here. We've managed to establish a nice life. I've bought a nice house. I've created a nice employment for myself. I have a beautiful wife. I have a beautiful child. We're allowed, and I spend a lot of time working, doing community events. I was working on the emergency rescue for the fire department. I was working with the hospital for a lot of their, especially like during COVID and that, when they had a lot of their issues and stuff. They didn't have enough nurses and that. I spent a lot of volunteer. I do that for free. I do that for free. I risk my life for free on a daily basis. I've saved many lives, unfortunately. Some lives I was unable to save, but I've always tried my best. And, I've been in the forefront of trying to be part of the community my entire time here, providing jobs for people, saving people's lives, being the first person into high risk and dangerous situations. And for the most part, one thing I found is, yes, living in a third world country is more dangerous just by nature of it being a third world country. You also have freedom. You have the freedom because the government doesn't have the technical ability that the United States have. So even though the government may be more corrupt, unless you're right in their face, for the most part, they leave you alone just because they don't have the ability to enforce their tyranny, right, the way the United States does. So yes, there is more freedom here, as long as, like I said, you're not blatantly an idiot criminal trying to do stupid things. Unlike what the United States portrays, they try to portray this as like this big sex tourism, hotspot and stuff. I'm involved with the courts here, and I'm going to tell you what, if you get involved in that stuff, you are going to get in serious trouble, and you deserve to be in serious trouble. End of story. It is not lax in that matter, and they're not going to put up with it. You may wind up with your face down in a ditch, and you deserve it. I'll be the first one to say, you get involved in that stuff, you deserve what happens. Absolutely. I'm not advocating crime whatsoever. Just like you, I'm a very firm person in not advocating crime. Matter of fact, I would probably be the first person to put you in a ditch if I saw you doing something like that, because absolutely, I value human life. I value everyone's right to live their life as they see fit. As long as Thomas Jefferson said, as long as you do not impinge upon someone else's right to live their life.
Right. Absolutely.
So I would actually, I do. I love it here. I love the people here. I think it's and one thing I got to say about the BI, that's a whole different animal. Understand the Bureau of Immigration is not attached to the justice system. They're an animal of their own, and they're as corrupt as all hell. But as far as the justice system, one thing I really love, and I have very good reason to know this, very good reason. Many of the judges here, all the way to the top judges, are very good friends of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And they do something the United States doesn't do. Their justice system is under the principle that it is better to release 5 guilty than to lock up 1 innocent. It is better to rehabilitate than to have reoffense.
Mm-hmm.
So their entire justice system, and I love listening to their court cases because the judges, they really work hard to mitigate. They try to do something. The United States, you can't do it. It's illegal in the United States to try to negotiate between the parties.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is because the United States needs the slave labor, as you know, you've been to prison, the slave labor of the prison workforce, making license plates, making Debbie cakes, making furniture, it's not illegals that are stealing Americans' jobs. It's inmates, because that's where all the factories are at.
Right.
And it's legalized slave labor. That's why they need so many prisons. Over here, they don't have that. They don't need the prison. They don't want the prisons. So they do everything they can to try to rehabilitate not only the person who offended, but the family. They get involved with the family. They try to keep the family together. They try to keep it as a, to create the, what's the word I'm looking for? The positive connections that a person who has offended needs to keep them from reoffending. It's not about.
If they're so positive like that, I don't see why they would just go around putting bullets in people's luggage, try to lock people up. If they're so firm on rehabilitation.
That's the Bureau of Immigration. Like I said, that is a different animal. That's why I said right off the bat, do not mix those two. Bureau of Immigration versus the courts. The Bureau of Immigration, and here's the why they're such a corrupt animal, is everything with that changes every time a new president comes into office. So every 6 years, it's 6 years here, that a new president comes in, that whole upper atmosphere changes. So what it is it's a cherry. It's like a customs. Okay, customs is also decided by the president. So it's a cherry office for corruption. That you're only going to be in there for 6 years. So what you do is you come in to try to steal, loot, and pillage as much as you can before you have to go out. Every single one of them has dual passports in the United States. So they, like Marcos before that, they can boot to the United States and get protected from their crimes. Oops, did I say that? It's true. Look it up. So that is why those areas are so corrupt. Your judges, they live here. Your judges don't have dual citizenship, dual passports to get to the United States for their crimes. So they don't commit them. And I'm sure you're always going to have a couple bad judges, but it's not like the United States where every judge is corrupt. These guys, they live here. They're part of the community. It's a very dangerous job for them because there is a lot of assassinations. Judges here get assassinated routinely. So they work very hard. It keeps them honest. They work very hard to work with the community. Bureau of Immigration, they don't care. They're only going to be here for 6 years. Then they're going to the United States to spend all their loot. So that is why you have the difference.
So what advice could you give to those who are wanting to leave the United States and live abroad? What's the best advice you can give those individuals?
For one, get out of the United States. That's just the best advice, period. But two, and this is going to be a 2-part answer. One, and I know you agree with me, and probably I really hope that anyone in any group that we're with agrees 100%. If you want to come to another country to commit crimes or do something wrong, stay in the United States. Don't come here. Don't make our life hell. Don't make life worse for us. We're trying to do the right thing. We're trying to support our families. We care about the people and the communities where we live. We care about creating a better world for other people. We care about our families and the people we love. Stay the hell out of here. Stay in the United States where you belong. We don't want you. Now, that being said, I'm sorry if that offends people, but I'm not going to change my stand on that flat out. If you want to commit crimes, stay in the United States. You deserve it. Go to Chicago. Chicago loves you. Just don't come here. Detroit loves you. Just don't come here.
Thank you. Absolutely.
If you want to come overseas, first study, research, make sure you're going to someplace, talk to people who are in those locations. There's ways you can find them. We're great people. We will try our best to help you. We'll let you know where it's safe to go. And then make your decision, but always make it with the best intentions. Mm-hmm. Understand that if you do something stupid, all it takes is one stupid person to wreck it for every single one of the rest of us. We don't want you.
Absolutely. I firmly agree with that. I've said it. I used to say it when I first got this started. I used to say it damn near every video. If you're going to travel abroad, stay the hell out of trouble. I say it every fucking video. Yes. Don't get involved in any bullshit. Don't call attention to yourself.
Don't be the person that makes everyone else look bad. Whether you're the person that makes all Americans look bad or you're the person that makes everyone on the registry look bad, it's the same thing. Don't be that person. End of story. If you are, I'm going to be flat out honest with you. If I see you, I'm going to deal with you. And I'm sure anyone else here is going to say the same thing because you're jeopardizing our lives. Our lives are already hell, and the United States is trying to make them worse. We don't want you around.
Same for me. Same for me. If I found out about that, and I had a chance to do something to that person, I don't know. I don't want to incriminate myself, but hey.
I agree with you. I will not defend somebody in the process of doing something. But now, I want to clarify. There's a difference. If you are doing the right things, because the United States, everything's illegal. Everything's illegal. Mm-hmm. Every single one of us, just simply by the fact we don't know, because the laws change every few months, and they're always retroactive. They claim, it's civil, so it's not retroactive. Bullshit. Civil, you don't go to prison. Very simple, guys. Either your judges and your cops are the dumbest people on earth and they don't deserve the jobs that they're in, or they're the most corrupt people. They're one or the other. You can only be one of them because very simple. There's no such thing as a civil registry. It's went all the way to the Supreme Court and they said there is, which means that they're neglecting a very simple fact. Civil doesn't go to prison. Civil, penal, two different words for a reason.
Right.
Therefore, either your judges are all really retarded and they don't belong in their position, because a third grader knows the difference between civil and penal, or they're all corrupt. You pick which one it is.
Absolutely.
I don't.
So for me, my advice would be obtain your passport. Of course, if you're required to have your identifier under IML, it's going to be on there. Fortunately, my passport doesn't have it. And even if I'm required to have it, I'm not going to be turning that in because I did what I was supposed to do as far as going in, answering all the questions honestly. I paid my fee and I got what I got. Now don't turn around and try to tell me that I'm supposed to pay you again just because you didn't ask the question that you were supposed to ask.
Exactly. So, hey, that's all we're saying, folks. We paid our price. We are not bashful about saying we're not proud of what we did. Hell, it was 30 years ago. Give me a break. Am I proud of it? No. Every single one of you that has reached my age has done things you're not proud of. The difference is you don't have to suffer for them every single day for the rest of your life. Now, I made an agreement. They lied to me at the agreement. They've lied to me every day since. All I'm saying is, hey, wait a minute, guys. I was honest. You be honest. Can you do that? If you expect honesty from me, I expect honesty from you. If you expect me to follow the law, why can't you follow the law? That's all I expect. I expect the government that tells me to follow the law to follow it themselves. And obviously you failed. Absolutely. Leave us alone. Absolutely. But yeah, go. Yeah. I'm sorry, but man, that really gets under my skin.
Oh no, you're good. I understand the rage, man. I totally get it. I'm the same way. That's why I up and left, man. I will also add to my comment about passport, your identifier and stuff like that. When you do leave the United States, you plan on going to wherever it is you want to go in the world, do your due diligence, your research on if they're turning individuals in your position away. You certainly don't want to go to a place that's going to make it worse for you or harder for you. You know, you certainly don't want to compromise your freedom and your safety as well. And according to what you're saying with the renewing your visa, there are countries that will honor that. You know, they'll freely honor that. I know I went to Thailand and I renewed my visa with no issues. You know, the process took probably 15 minutes and I got my passport back with no issues. You know, I'm sure they researched everything about me, whatever, but I just haven't had any issues with that. But I do know that, like you said, there are countries that will.
And be careful, because even countries that normally do might not. You know, I've heard a lot of things bad about Japan that Japan won't. I went to Japan; they renewed me just fine twice. But I perhaps could have been one of the lucky people, or it could be something that has changed since I went through. So do current research. Don't trust old research, and don't trust he said, she said, because they may be giving you advice that's outdated.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Call a good safe, if you don't mind me saying this, a good safe bet is if you find a location that you're interested in going to, spend a little extra money, buy a call card, and call their departments up yourself. Get the answer right from the horse's mouth. Hey, you know what? I want to know, is it okay for me to travel here? This is the situation. Will you have a problem with me? Is it okay? Do the due diligence. It's better to have them tell you no before you leave than to find out after you leave, because the United States won't tell you what they're doing. I'm telling you right now, they love to destroy lives. They won't tell you. The United States won't tell you. They're going to smile. They're going to laugh. They're going to give you your plane ticket. They're going to send you on the way, fully well knowing that while you're in the air still, they're sending emails to that country tell them you're the worst person on earth, no matter what you were convicted of. You may have been convicted of Romeo and Juliet 50 years ago. They're going to be making it out like you were convicted of a Marilyn Manson, Jeffrey Dahmer murder, rape, mystery case. And that's what they're going to be emailing. I know this for a fact. I've seen the emails that they send, and I'll tell you what, the emails they send do not do justice to whatever it was you're convicted of. I know this for a fact. As a matter of fact, when the commissioner himself looked at mine, and I was fortunate, like I said, I had a legal representation with me, and I had a wife with me who is very steeped in the law and a very high-ranking official. And they turned over my paperwork right there. Said, no, that's not true here.
Mm-hmm. We're about to get disconnected. I think we lost him.
All right. Well, we only got a minute left. It says we have a minute left of our meeting. That was pretty much everything I had to say. Whatever you want to add or any questions you have. I hope you caught the end of what I said. I don't know if you caught it or not.
No, I didn't catch it, but we'll do another video, because I do want to go more into detail about that specific topic and discuss that specific topic on another video. And I do want to include you and several other individuals in this video too. So we'll definitely get that going.
Fantastic. Not a problem. I have no problem doing anything I can to help others. Oh.
I think we lost him again.
I can hear you and not hear you. Kind of in and out.
There we go. Internet connection is.
Right, welcome back.
All right. All right. Well, let's go ahead and end it here, man. We're having connection issues.
All right. Have a great afternoon, evening, or morning, whatever